So what's up, man?
What up, Tariq? What a
I'm out
different
here,
two
man.
weeks
I'm I'm,
break,
I'm
right?
surviving.
Are you where are you right now? You're in Jersey or?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'm right outside New York City.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's good, man. At least you're home with family. I'm
Absolutely,
I'm still
absolutely. And you're
sitting
out there in
here.
LA, right?
I'm in LA, yes, I'm downtown. Um, yeah, but man, I can't even lie, bro. I was going through it this morning. I
Oh
was
wow,
having a
what
rough
happened?
I was having a rough time like this, just being self-isolating. This whole vibe of quarantined alone is like it started to get to me this morning, bro. I was like, all right, this is cool, but I need to see family. It just reminded me of the importance of actually like the human touch of like
Yeah.
physically like hugging your kids or hugging your loved one, your spouse. And I'm like sitting here. I woke up this morning like going stir crazy in here. Like I got to get out. I got to do something, man. So yeah.
No, I feel you, man. Yeah, it's definitely, times like this, I find myself hugging my kids, just being real touchy-feely, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Even more so than usual, you know? So,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm blessed to be dealing with this in the presence of my family, man. I know you definitely got to be going through it because how long you been in the crib at this point?
Man, almost 3 weeks. Yeah, almost
Yeah,
three.
that's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, I've been
three
in here
weeks. Yeah,
since the 12th. So yeah, I'm looking at around the same time.
around the same
You
time. Yeah,
know,
and then with them extending it until like April 30th, this is like it's a little difficult, but at the end of the day, like it's all about making sure that you are safe for your
yeah,
family, safe to be able to
absolutely,
provide, and you're still here. So I respect it from that from that perspective, but it doesn't necessarily make it easier,
right,
but I'm still going to cope with it because it's not even optional, and then on the other side, life has changed personally for me, like just by sitting here in this very spot that I'm talking to you,
yeah,
sitting in this spot, it's like this spot which is so dope to be able to talk to you because every time in every interview that I've done, I talk about the importance of not really what I did because I couldn't have done what happened without the core group of people that we started out with that just wanted to hear music and that like just stayed in there. And it happened to be whenever I talk about it, I always talk about you, Bun B, and then like a couple of our friends that are, that are important friends, but they may not be in the music industry that people may not know of, and and how supportive you've been the entire time, where it made me happy to just be able to sit on a computer. I didn't even have turntables hooked up to just sit on a computer and
right,
just play music with you in the room, which is just
yeah. I
crazy because
mean,
I know you're like this music lover.
it's pretty phenomenal, man. It's definitely pretty phenomenal to see it grow organically in that way from something that you just decided to share in the moment with a few of us, what I mean, who were the relatively close friends, into to, the phenomenon that it sort of became, without losing its effect, though. You know what I'm saying?
True,
As it
true.
grew, as it evolved, it maintained like the same effect and the same impact on 100,000 people that it had on 100 people. You know what I mean?
True.
So it's definitely a beautiful thing to see, bro. Definitely. So
It's been. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
no, I was saying, so like what this is my first interview. My first time really interviewing anyone, and
Oh man, that's awesome.
this is streams of thought. This is
Nice.
it's not a podcast or anything. I don't know what it is. It's some content. It's stream of consciousness content that I've decided to do. I've decided to speak to some people who inspire me, and between whom the respect and
Hey, bro, I think we lost him.
uh, yeah, yo, do you see me?
Yep. You're back now.
Yeah, I was saying I'm honored to have you as my first guest, man.
I'm happy to be here to share this story. Without this becoming like a love fest, I'm just telling you, like I've just always been inspired by you and like your creativity and by you, the man, the person, the husband, the father,
Wow.
like, and on top of it, it's like you've been, whether you know it or not, you've been like extremely important to the evolution of D Nice, you know, like in terms of like my creativity, you know, being a photographer, you know, when I photographed you guys for that campaign, you know, you were always just a nice dude, you know, and when we toured with it was the artistry program, I never wanted to rap again, you know, and somehow
Wow.
you guys pulled me on stage and I was just still nervous, didn't even know how to perform my own songs, you know, like wasn't really comfortable in my own skin and in my own voice. And from that side of me, of the MC side, to where I never wanted to do that ever again. But that experience was so beautiful, where it was like I felt so much love, and I felt like you personally, because you are on the mic, that you protected me, you know, like you held it down, you know, and it made me extremely comfortable. So to do that, and then to have this this friendship and this fellowship with you, where I can feel comfortable enough to even just play the music that I love and tell these stories. Like my life has forever changed because of what we did together, you know, and it just makes me happy to be this first person that you're talking to, and you're
Oh
you know,
man, it
streams of thought.
it means the world to me, bruh. You know, to be able to, I mean, first of all, to hear you say that, you know, and it means the world to me to sort of be able to provide that sort of that safety net to, you know, artists like you, the artists like yourself who inspire me to do what it is that I do from the jump, you know, and then who, you know, may sit a couple rounds out, you know what I mean, not put out music for some years, and then feel more self-conscious about, you know, jumping back into performing and recording and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just been an honor and a pleasure to be able to serve as that bridge. You know what I mean? Like from like really a bridge between generations for like lots of artists. Really everyone who inspired me and inspired Questlove and inspired the Roots to do what it is that we do. We've been blessed enough to share the stage with, and in many cases, you know, to record with, and you know, they all have that same sort of thing to say. And it really, when people ask me, I'm often asked, people say, "Yo, how does it feel to be, you know, so underrated?" You know what I mean? And I've never gotten that. I've never felt underrated as an artist, underrated as an MC. I feel like everyone whose opinion sort of matters to me. You know, like the D Nices and KRS Ones and Rakims and Kanes and G Raps of the world, and you know, everyone who sort of Chuck D and everyone who made me want to do it. I feel like they're all in agreement. We're all in agreement about what, you know, the purpose is that I've served. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've always felt like my rating is A1, as long as, you know what I'm saying, as long as I'm held in a high regard amongst you all pioneers, you know?
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I too feel like I'm bridging the gap, right? So I know there's a generation, in particular, like my generation of like hip hop, and you know, which is like slightly before what year did your records, you came out, what, 90 what?
93.
93. Okay, so like that 80s generation of hip hop dudes that are now in their 50s or approaching their 50s. Actually, most of them should probably be in their 50s now, because Special Ed and I were like two of the youngest ones, and you know,
Yeah.
and so like, yeah, so in their 50s that may not understand that you could reinvent yourself, man. You don't have to limit yourself to just doing one thing. You know, like Slick Rick should be writing screenplays, or Dana Dane writing screenplays, Slick Rick writing books. Like, they're fantastic storytellers, you know, like,
I
and
agree.
I've always felt like my job when I returned to the scene, because I was gone for like 10 years, but when I returned to the scene and I started to DJ, slowly jumping into it and trying to find my way, that it was always supposed to be, yes, I wanted to make money. I didn't think it was going to become what it did. I just thought it was going to be like a local New York club thing, and like, cool, like
Wow.
I'll be able to do my gigs, and you know, and inspire someone else to just follow their dreams. And the moment that it started to take off, because I've always been self-managed, so I made decisions that were based on like what felt right in my heart, and what also felt that what I felt would be great for 5 years from now. I always had these goals, like, you know, I'm not really surprised what's happening to me like right now, in terms of like, you know, just like how many people are like really paying attention to the style of DJing. I
Right.
felt like it would get there, I just didn't think it would take this long. I thought it would be a lot sooner. Like, oh, I'm D Nice, but that didn't work. I had to like literally like start all over from scratch. I had to take those $100 gigs in order to become to play at Kane in New York City back in 2004 or whatever, to get to the Super Bowl in 2007 with Sports Illustrated. I had to make the right decisions and make the right choices that I don't think would have been possible had someone else been representing me, because they were trying to put me in an old school category. And I've never seen myself. I've always felt like music is music. Like, I don't care when it was made. Like, if it grooves right, you should be able to rock what you love and like not be judged for it. So I always hope to serve as a source of inspiration for the older cats. But like now I see this new wave of like young artists like her and like Lucky Day, like, you know, Trevor Jackson, that, you know, they follow me and like we're cool and like I rock with her. And like I just saw like an interview where she was like, yo, D Nice has always been like my #1 DJ. And you're talking, this is coming from like a 22-year-old, you know, and I feel like what we are able to do with the culture is to like bridge the gap. It's so beautiful, it's inspirational. And I really do hope that, you know, to continue to have these opportunities to do so.
No, I definitely hope so as well. You know, it's great that you mentioned, you know, storytelling, because I feel like, you know, that's what you've always been. Like you've been a storyteller from day one. You know, you began as, you know, the TR-808 with Boogie Down Productions, doing the human beatbox and DJing and stuff, and, you know, became an MC. And though the medium has evolved, and, you know, you went from, you know, being an MC to years later becoming a photographer and then coming back to DJ. And I feel like you've always been the same artist. And whenever you tell a story, it's from the same perspective. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you represent the Bronx. You know what I mean? You're South Bronx the same way I'm South Philly. And that medium, it may change. I may, you know, be working on, you know, I'm maybe composing, arranging for a musical and working as a playwright, or I may be doing, you know, stand-up comedy. The perspective is still the same, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I agree.
And it's also dope that you mentioned you and Special Ed, you know, being two of the youngest artists at that time when you guys first came out in the 80s, because I feel like that speaks volumes to just the power and the potential of our youth. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, you know, like the revolution, the real revolution, they say the revolution won't be televised. The real revolution to be fought is going to be fought by the young people. You know what I mean? Like whenever there's a change that is brought about, it's by a youthful movement. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's often overlooked, just like the brilliance of some of these young people and the brilliance of, you know, a lot of the hip hop pioneers, man, like that was 13 and 14 and 15 years old out there, you know, I mean, writing poetry. You know what I mean? Stuff that still stands the test of time today. You know what I'm saying? I recite Special Ed lyrics all the time. And it's stuff that he wrote when he was the same age as my daughter. You know what I mean? And I just can't fathom, you know, that he was that ahead of the curve and that dialed in. But I feel like that speaks volumes to you know, just the potential and the power of our youth, man. It's something not to be overlooked, you know?
Oh, I agree with you. What's funny, I'll tell you a story, right? So one day I was talking to Rakim, and we were talking about this tour, that our very first tour it was called the Dope Jam Tour. They were the headliners. It was Eric B. and Rakim, Dougie Fresh, Kumo D, BDP, Ice-T, and Biz Markie.
Wow.
Right? So Rakim, Eric and Ra were headlining. So, you know, this was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I was talking to Rakim, and I was like, man, because how much fun we had. And he was like, yeah, D, because you and I were like the two youngest dudes on the tour. And I looked at him, I was like, two youngest dudes? How old were you? He was like, I was 18 years old. It completely blew my mind that Rakim was 19, that the lyrics from Paid in Full came from an 18-year-old.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
It's crazy.
That's
from
crazy.
An 18-year-old. And I just looked at him. I was like, wait, what? He was 18 years old, 17 to 18 years old while he was writing that first album.
And this is stuff that, you know, those are lyrics, those are words that, you know, you could put in a time capsule and open, 50 years from now, and they'll still be just as poignant and, make just as much sense and just as poetic. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that speaks volumes just to the power of the pen and the power of the spoken and written word, and just, to the creativity of young people, man. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's the level of excellence that I've always, sort of strived towards. Like, I've always wanted to, that's the barometer that I hold myself against. I'm like, if this brother was, 18, 19, 16, 17 years old, like creating at this caliber, I feel like, that's at least where I should be. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I think you've accomplished that goal, man, because so many of us are truly in awe of you, and not just as a lyricist, but just as a you, the fan of the music, because you have to be a fan to know as many hip hop songs as you do. Like, you can recite any verse, like any artist. You pick an artist, like, and I noticed that when we were on that artistry tour, I was like, yo, Tariq is doing an entire set of everyone else's songs, which was, first of all, unheard of in hip hop. Like, to have anyone do that, and for you to do it was like, man, this dude really lives and breathes the culture. Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's why so many of us are like, I don't look at you as underrated. I mean, people already know that you're brilliant, and you do it the way you want to. You bounce between consciousness, and even when you make even if you decide that you want to make a love song, it's still a love song that deals with consciousness, like, and it's just, I mean, I'm just a fan, bro. Like, if I had to do this all over and pattern myself after anyone in hip hop, it would actually be you, because you love music. From whether you're singing the James Brown records when you're on the Tonight Show, or whether you're on stage just rocking, or if you just have, like, what I'm saying, like your boy on the beats and just dropping jewels, and like, I'm just a fan, man, and I really do. I can't even thank you enough for, like, the friendship and the fellowship. Like, it's when I came up, I had a rough time in the 90s, even though my solo album came out in 90, and my first two albums 90 and 91. But by like 93, if you didn't put out records consistently, and I was like fighting with the record company, you didn't drop records consistently, then it was pretty much over. It wasn't really a huge mixtape like scene like that. I mean, you had Clue and them coming up, but once you made records, to go back and like just put out a mixtape, it's like shopping your demo all over again after you sold millions of records. And I had no desire. I was a little depressed. But the thing about it was, like, they were always these pockets. You either had, like, in the 90s, you were a part of the Bad Boy clique or the Death Row clique, or everything was cliquish. And because I came out in the 80s, I didn't fit in anywhere. So I had to, like, figure this shit out, man. I had to figure out life. And it ended up being the best thing for me. Like, the absolute best thing, because I wasn't a part of anything. I didn't have to live up to, if I was a part of Death Row, I mean, Snoop was the man. I would have had to live up to that, and I was just able to find my own voice. And I learned early on that creativity doesn't have to be just with me and a pen and a pad. I'm creative when I pick up the camera. I'm creative when I play music, just the way that I play it. I'm creative when, no matter what it is that I'm doing, through conversation, that's me being creative, and that's my way of expressing it. And it's just like, it's been like this magical feeling, knowing, like, before I used to live in the shadow of, like, my group and, one of the greatest MCs, KRS, and to know, like, man, 3 decades later, I'm like still standing here on my own and considered probably, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm one of the top DJs, but I know that for sure people are paying attention to me. And I'm doing it by being authentically me. I'm playing what I love.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just been like, it's just been a magical experience. And I only could do that because I had this group of people around me that kind of protected me. That was like, no, it is cool what you're playing, D. Like, no disrespect to EDM, or, because I love all of that. I love all of the music. But if you ask me, what am I going to sit down and play for you? If you were in my living room, or if you were in my kitchen, what would I play for you? And the set that I played happened to be the set that changed my life. And it all came from this having the experience of just loving music throughout the decades, you
Yeah,
know, and
man.
like now I'm able to just present it to people the way I love it, man. So it's great, bro. It's great.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like though, man. It feels authentic. It feels very personal. It feels like you're giving us, insight into, something that you hold very close, near and dear to yourself. You know what I mean? That being said, I mean, I've seen you rock from, the vacation scene in Martha's Vineyard, to, a basement party at a hotel to the White House. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like you bring the same energy no matter the size of the audience. In
sure.
this case, without there even being an audience, with a virtual audience, you're able to bring the same sort of energy and the same chemistry. And that's, I feel like that's what makes you special. I was talking to Michelle, talking to my wife earlier, and she was like, what is that you like? What do you like so much about D-Nice? I mean, like, she loves you. She knows, what makes her such a fan. But she was asking me this morning, and I said, whenever I see D-Nice, it's a feeling of familiarity,
Sure.
that I get. It's a brotherhood, it's a camaraderie, and it's never a surprise. Like, I know exactly what I'm gonna get when I run into you. I know who it is that I'm running into, and no matter the size of the room, no matter where we are, that's not gonna change. You know what I'm saying? And it's something very comforting in that. I ran into you last year in May. We were at Sotheby's at the auction house.
Yep, yep,
And yeah, with David Byrne and I were being
yep, yep.
honored by National Sawdust. And it was like, I'm in an art gallery. It's a different scene for me. That I just, I'm super humbled in the same way that you're humble. So I felt weird being an honoree anyway. You know what I mean? And I'm looking around the room. I was clinging to my wife a lot, like, just really trying to, fill the room out. And when I saw you, it completely put me at ease, man. It was like, okay, like, my people's is in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I always feel that way when I run into you. So that being said, the other day, the first or second day, when we were at, 150 people as opposed to 150,000 people inside Club Quarantine, you were telling stories about,
Yes.
just like, I don't know, before you played a record, you would, tell a little brief story, a little anecdote. And one of the stories that you told was about being on a train with Big Daddy Kane on your way
Yep.
to the Apollo. You know what I'm saying? You were going to DJ for him at the Apollo, and he was writing lyrics to this. Could you tell us what song he was writing the lyrics to on your way to that
Yeah,
show?
I wasn't DJing for him. I was just going. I ended up becoming his hype man.
Crazy.
For him at the Apollo. And he was on the train. And he only had Raw out at the time, so his first single was out, and he was writing the first verse for like Ain't No Half Step, and I was just kind of going over the first verse, and like had the paper in his hand. We're on the train, kicked it to me, like, yeah, King, yeah, that's my brother, man. Like, that's another one of those guys who, I'm gonna tell you a story about Kane. He'd probably be mad at me for telling this. Kane, we had, at the time, this was like when I started my web development company. So this was probably like 2000. I hadn't seen Kane in years, and I was going through this phase of like wanting to see my friends. And Kane was living in North Carolina, which he still lives in NC now. And I just bought, I just remember the year because I bought a car. It was my first time being able to afford a car. It was like a Honda Civic. My first time after making music, because I had lost everything. And like I was
Wow.
starting over. And then
Wow.
once I started making money with my web development company, I bought this Honda Civic and I drove to North Carolina to see Kane. I
Wow.
drove to Kane, and when I, called him up, I was like, yo, I just wanted to see my brother. I hadn't seen him in years, like over like a half a decade. And got to Kane's house, went to Kane's apartment. He didn't have a house appointment. Went to his apartment, like one or two bedroom apartment. He, his Grammy was on the television. It was all dusty looking. And and Kane, at the time I was actually contemplating a return to MCing. Like, I hadn't even written a lyric in like 9 years, at that point.
Wow.
And I went to Kane and I was like, yo, Kane, like, I really want to do this again. And Kane, with his deep voice, he was like, yo, look at you, man. You're doing well. You're doing well right now. You're building websites. He was like, you're building websites. You found a groove for yourself. I don't know, man. You may not want to do this anymore. He's like, me. He's like, me, I don't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like I'm a rapper. You know, I just, you know, I can't go get a job at McDonald's and have some kid telling me, hey, yo, let me get a burger and some fries, and no half stepping with that. Yo, from that point on, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick to this web development stuff, man, because kids are cruel. You know, I was like, yo, good looking kid. So I never went back into the studio really because of that conversation with Kane. It forced me to want to be great at something else that I can actually be in control of. Because I don't, at the time, like my ego was already fragile enough trying to get back, trying to put music out, and then someone like classify me as like this relic would have just totally thrown everything off, man. So I owe it to Big Daddy Kane while I can contribute it to that conversation with Kane on why I'm still here doing what I love, man.
That's crazy, man. You know, one of the, like a career highlight for me was touring with Kane. You know, some years ago we did a couple runs together. One of which was the Hip Hop Honors Tour, and you know, being able to come out every night and, you know, to be Kane's hype man. Granted, it wasn't, you know, in the '80s at the Apollo, but, you know, in the early 2000s, still being able to come out and rock with Kane, and, you know, because I know everything that he's ever sort of spit. And if it wasn't for that song that he was writing with you that day on the train that he kicked for you, I may not have even, you know, I might not still be an artist. Like, if it wasn't for Ain't No Half Stepping and obviously Raw, I may have, you know, like hung it up a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, that song in particular, like me hearing, like he came to Philly one time, and he was at a club called the After Midnight that, you know, used to be a hip hop club in the '80s. And he wound up battling somebody, a Philly artist who was from South Philly, from the same part of the city that I was from. And this guy, his name was Jazz Fresh. And Kane battled Jazz Fresh, and some of the lyrics that he spit that night were from that song, Ain't No Half Stepping. And it was,
wow.
this was like 1987, you know what I mean? And, you know, I was a buck, and I wasn't old enough to really hang in that club, but I got my hands on a cassette tape, on a tape of that battle. And I mean, it was life-changing for me. So, you know, fast forward years later, to be able to come out with him every night and, you know, be his hype man on that song and on Raw and on Set It Off and all these, you know, classic songs that really sort of helped form, you know, what it was that I would become as an MC. It was golden. It was golden, man. But I mean, I would definitely, I would trade it all to have been in your spot on that train that day on the way to the Apollo. Yo.
Dude, it's crazy.
That's mind blowing. I feel like you're like the hip hop Kevin Bacon in that, you know, like there's only 1 or 2 degrees. There's no more than 6 degrees of separation, you know, between you and anyone in this industry, you know. And I feel like that's a blessing, man, because greatness, you know, gravitates towards you. And you got a magnetic personality, and you just a humble, a real dude, man, you know.
Yeah, you know, and I plan on staying that way, bro. Like I'm never gonna allow anything to take that from me, because the beauty is I'm able to wake up every day doing something that I love. And even in a situation like this, where, you know, when I was, like I said earlier in the conversation, where I was frustrated, at the end of the day, man, I'm sitting here in my living room, very nice place, playing music. I still love music. The only thing that's missing is I wish I was like closer to my kids to just embrace my children.
Right.
But imagine this 20 years ago, no FaceTime, there was no Zoom, none of these, it wasn't even optional. So
exactly.
I love where we are in life. I appreciate it. I'm very inspired to continue to do greatness. And I want people to root for me. That's another thing that was great. Like even last night, you know, I was trying to like not DJ so much on IG Live, because there are other DJs that deserve to have some shine, you know, like they deserve it. And when, you know, being that I, you know, the thing that we created is so popular, when I'm on, people just come into that room because they know they're going to see people that they're fans of. They're going to hear some great music. They can dance with their families, but there are other people that deserve the same kind of thing. So I try to like only do it once a week now. Right. But it's hard. It's so hard.
Right. No, but that's very selfless of you, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm able to appreciate that, because I mean, just last night, you know, I dropped in on Keith Shockley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was just spinning some 45s in his basement and destroying. He was killing it. I mean, killing it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was rapping, like I was, texting him, hitting him, blowing him up, and it was like 25 of us in there. You know what I'm saying? And I was just thinking like, wow, this is the sort of thing that, it would be dope if it were able to grow. But I feel like, you doing what you've done is definitely, it's given a lot of DJs and a lot of artists just period, like that extra incentive and the extra confidence to sort of, to come out there and rock and to embrace this virtual, world, you know what I mean? And to sort of be there and become more accessible for their fans, be it, 20 people or 20,000 people. And
true.
yeah, I've definitely, I've rocked out with DJ Premier and definitely my brother Questlove,
of course.
DJ Active in Philly, Keith Shockley, Rich Medina, it's definitely, it's a trend that I feel like something that Kwame did just last weekend. He took what you sort of started and ran with it, in that not only was he spinning, like playing songs, but he was like tagging in other classic artists, other OG legends, and having them perform one song and sort of passing around like the microphone, like virtually for everyone to perform. And I think that was dope. But I feel like, what you did, man, it really, broke down a wall. It broke down a barrier, and it was really comforting to, lots of us, like during these super uncertain times, man. So it's been a blessing for us all. When you hit that 100,000, and I took that screenshot, man. You like, yo, somebody get this. We had 100K. Somebody get this. You know what I mean? Like me, my homie Jonathan Mannion, like a couple of us. We took those screenshots. First of all, what were you thinking at that moment, and who was the first person that you hit up after that legendary set you spun?
Man, I mean, that feeling was overwhelming, because at the time, I mean, I know people have done it now. Like Drake did it; he had like 300,000. But at the time, no one was utilizing this platform that way. So
what you did hit different. It hit different.
Yeah, it hit different. So it was, and even though it was 100,000, it actually represented around 5 million people that were in and out of that chat room, because people were flowing through it, but steadily keeping that number growing. But five. I mean, they told me, they were like, bro, like 100,000. Like, no, this was millions of people that were in there with you guys. Yeah, it was great. I didn't actually call anyone. When my set was finally over, the first person that called me was Puff. Diddy just called me, and Diddy calls no one. He called me. He was like, yo. He was like, Playboy. Like, that was insane. He was like, the set was crazy. Everyone was in there, and he actually gave me the advice that I needed. Puff is a businessman. The fact that he did not bring up business made me love and respect him even more, because he was like, yo, as your brother, I just want to say this to you. You need to take a few days off for you to enjoy the feeling that you had with what you did, because he's like, yo, that shit is incredible. Like, you need to enjoy it. I didn't, because I just couldn't believe we hit that number, that I went on the next day it was the ego. I was like, wait, this can't be real. And then as soon as I signed on, it was at 100,000 within 10 minutes. And then we peaked at 165. And I was like, yo, this is actually, like, people really like when I play music. So the first person I spoke to was Puff. And the funny thing is, he's also the person I spoke to last night. He called me. Last night he called me after because I started doing, like, since I was always waiting. I would always wait until people are like towards the end of their set, so I could just get on and play like a slow jam set or just a vibey set. And then he called me last night, and he was like, yo, did you really just play Mr. Bojangles? And I'm like, yo, it felt good. He was like, bro, yo, you are officially my favorite DJ. He was like, the way you DJ and the way you think about music, it's the same way. This is what makes Amir so dope to me. Like, a lot of times people don't understand Amir's DJing. To me, I just think it's brilliant. And I've learned to incorporate what I've experienced with Amir and combined it with what I've experienced listening to Q-Tip and Mark Ronson, and then also put myself into it. Like, Amir DJs strictly based on drums.
Right.
Everything when I hear it, I can hear the drums coming in, and I'm like, oh, I see where he's going with this. It's crazy. Q-Tip is very soulful, very soulful. Mark Ronson is just like hip hop, 90s hip hop, and that 80s pop. And all of that's what I really love. Like, I love the drum patterns. I love like the soulfulness of it. I love the 80s because the 80s music just makes you smile. Like, you sing along to it. That's what we were doing growing up. I mean, have you ever heard Sherelle's Savage Love and had a frown on your face?
Right.
Nah, you're singing along because it just feels good. You know what I mean? It's not aggressive and sexy, the bass line, the drums. So I just learned to combine like my favorite DJs who happen to be them, you know, like not the turntablists, because I mean, I love Scratch is like one of my favorite DJs in terms of like turntablism. And Clark Kent also. Clark Kent is one of those guys
Yep.
who I kind of like, I love his music selection. You know, Clark is, you know, is Stretch. Like I've surrounded myself around like people who I just love the way they make people feel when you hear them play. And
Yeah.
that's, but for me, it started with Mark Ronson and Tip, and then it went into Quest because I would always just go and listen to him. But it evolved to like my crew, the Originals, and like, you know, I mean, Rich Medina is just, yo, there are nights when we all rock together and we play 30-minute sets each, where
Wow.
any given night, one of us will body the other, and we'll all dap up the other person like, yo, that was your night. There are some nights where Rich people may not connect with Rich, you know, like they may be on
Right.
some, yo, I want some newer stuff, you know, or I want the D Nice vibe, or I want the reggae that Stretch is playing, or the Latin music that Toka is gonna drop. But man, when that dude connects, it's like you don't even want to go after him. It's like,
No, I know. But listen, man, you guys all together are like the Avengers, man. Y'all like the DJ Avengers, bro. You know what I'm saying? Y'all form like Voltron. And you're all my favorite DJs. Man, it was this one joint that Clark like recommended you play on the first day when you were spinning. And it was a gospel record, man. And he was like, yo, you know, I'm like, this for DJ Clark Kent. And you dropped that joint. I don't know what record that was or who it was. I lost my mind. I think that was the first time that I actually got up and was physically dancing, you know, with my phone while you were spinning. The first of many, you know what I mean? But that was it. And I was like, yo, this is a gospel record. It just hit so hard, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's how we do, man. Like we're always, and that's the beauty of like my collective, the Originals, is that if one of us, even during our 30-minute set, if I have a jewel and I'm like, yo, Clark, let me just throw this on. Like, it's cool to just tap your brother and like, all right, let me rock this. And that's how we do, man. Like, we actually know our DJ sensibilities. Like, we know each other. It's like, I know where and we also don't lead one another. You know, it's like, I'm not going to play my 30-minute set and then by minute 28, I'm going to go from hip hop and just throw the most left field pop 80s record on that will mess up your whole flow. So we just kind of know we have a rhythm. We have a real rhythm, man. Like we work so well together, bro. Like it's unbelievable to me.
That's a beautiful thing,
play
man.
music with your brothers, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful to get to work with, you know, some of almost most of your favorite DJs. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
On the regular. That being said, who's your favorite photographer? Or, you know, one of your favorite photographers and why?
One of my favorite photographers living and one that's no longer here. Gordon Parks will always be my favorite photographer.
Likewise.
Because he just represented the culture of not just photography, but just pure artistry, directing, you know, published author, you know, like, I mean, Gordon, he's everything to me. And in terms of like the overall picture, I only hope to be remembered in, you know, in ways that people revere him, you know, with everything that I'm doing in terms of like music and photography and now philanthropy and like moving into like, you know, directing and, you know, like I want to be remembered that way as just an artist, you know. My favorite living photographer, I really love and respect Jonathan Mannion. I love his work and I love how he documented hip hop from an album cover perspective, you know, not like street photography, but just like the work that will always be remembered, like you know, in the long run of like these Jay-Z album covers and like,
Yeah.
you know, the DMX album covers, like to have like that kind of history with music and Aaliyah and like, and to be able to like tell all of these incredible stories about the artists that we all love, it's just great. And on top of it, his work is just beautiful. So
Agreed.
between
I
those are
agree.
like, yeah, my two photographers that I love.
No, I
How about
definitely
yourself?
agree with
Who are you
you.
into?
You know, Jonathan Mannion is definitely one of my favorites. Again, just because of, you know, all of the iconic, you know, cover art that he's, you know, had a hand in bringing, you know, to the world. And yeah, you know, he's a no nonsense photographer. He doesn't waste a lot of time, you know what I mean? He's to the point and efficient, and he gets the job done, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like I'm always able to sort of trust that, you know, I'm able to trust his vision, you know? You know, I'm also a huge fan, obviously, of Gordon Parks for just because how he was able to transcend genre and to cross disciplines in that way, and because he represented the culture. But when it comes to just you know, me being transported to my favorite time of my life, the formative stages of my life, some of the most impactful imagery in my mind, you know what I mean, when I go back and through my mental Rolodex, has been you know, from Jamel Shabazz. I'm immediately transported, you know, just back to, you know, the days, the images and the days and the sound and the feel, the textures that made me want to do what it is that I do and made me want to do it forever. I feel like he's able to capture that every time he takes a photo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. What's so crazy is like, I'm sitting here and, you know, I didn't expect you to even bring up like photographers and like sitting here right now or some of the books. So the story of why these books are here, I love collecting coffee table books of photography of like my favorite people, but they're sitting here because when I put my gear over here, I wanted things to be elevated by coffee table books that I love, so I can look down and just feel the inspiration from like my favorite people. So I'm sitting here. This is so crazy that we're talking about this.
Oh
This
man,
is
that's crazy.
Gordon Parks and Ralph Ellison. Another one of my favorite photographers is Jim Marshall. His book is here. Listen, man, like holding up the camera right now is Carrie May's book. You know
Oh
what I
man, you
mean?
know what?
Like,
Carrie May is my next interview, man. She actually called me twice during this interview that we're doing right now.
that's
So
hilarious.
she's gonna be the second person that I'll probably speak to.
No, that's awesome,
I
man.
feel really bad that I wasn't able to answer, but I didn't want to ruin this Zoom thing, so I wasn't able to take the call. But she's another one of my favorites, and you know, she just over the past few years, man, she's become, I mean, almost like a big sister to me. She's an inspiration,
Oh, wow.
just beyond artistically. You know, she's a huge inspiration, and you know, has made a huge impact in my life and you know, just on my family too. So yeah, she's a great person to know. And yeah, well, yeah, you were there that night at the at Sotheby's. She was the person who honored me. She was
Oh,
a person,
actually, I
yeah,
do remember that. Yes, yes, she did
yeah,
honor you. Yes,
yeah.
yes,
But you
yes.
know, again, another brilliant photographer, man, and just
Yeah, I
all around beautiful person. And I love her for the same reasons that I love you. You know what I
appreciate
mean?
that. Love you as well, brother. Man, this is great, man. I know you got to get to calling her, but
Yeah,
definitely tell her she has a fan in me. Her book is literally right here.
that's amazing. That's
Man, this is
amazing.
great though,
Yeah.
bro.
No, this has been really great, man. This has really been great. I want to thank you for, you know, thanks for giving me the time. And I know you're super busy now. I know you got like D
Not
Nice
as
for
busy as
president.
you, bro. I feel happy. Listen, man, to do something that you love and to be embraced by just different cultures, all because of the love of music, is a beautiful thing, man. You know, like honestly, I'm very inspired by the people that have lifted me up and said, no, we like him, like, you know, and it's just a great feeling. I'm still gonna enjoy it, and I'm gonna enjoy playing great music, and I look forward to like the next set and seeing your name pop up in there on the music vibe.
Likewise, bro. You know I'm there. I'm right there, bro.
Absolutely, bro.
We don't like you. We love you. We need you. You know what I'm saying? And at this point, you become a national treasure, bro. So
I appreciate that. I love you, brother.
love,
See you soon, man.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Yes,
man,
sir.
tell Michelle I said hello.
I will for sure, man. All right, peace.
Peace, brother.